you want to kick it off?
Sure. So I guess we have some obligatory slides we need to show at every tech conference. Do you want to read through these, or do you want us to just flip through these? Where's our Databricks rep? I think she's in the front row. Okay. So forward-looking statement, you're going to see some things that are generally available. You're going to see some things that are in private preview and public preview and so on. I think the takeaway here is make all your purchasing decisions on things that are real and generally available so that we don't get in trouble, and neither do you. Make sure that you complete your survey. If you haven't already downloaded your mobile app, do that after the presentation so that you're watching what we're saying and not fiddling with your mobile app. But make sure that you're filling out a survey afterwards. Super helpful to get feedback on how we're doing, what we presented, and whether it was valuable to all of you. So now that all of that stuff is out of the way, my name is Stephen Koscheski. There won't be a spelling test, I promise. I'm VP of Product Management at Acxiom, and this is my counterpart.
Hi, my name is Ankur Jain. I am Chief Cloud and Data Modernization Officer at Acxiom. I lead the engineering for both products as well as client solutions at Acxiom.
So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk to you all a little bit about how, what Acxiom is, what we do, what our industry is, so that we can kind of ground everybody on our business. I'm going to take you through that journey really quick in the beginning. I'm going to turn it over to my friend Ankur, who is going to go through Databricks use inside of our architecture across our products and solutions. And then we'll wrap it up with a live demo at the end, if the demo gods are in our favor. If not, we'll do a little recording and show you exactly how things work inside of the Databricks console. If you have any questions, hold them till the end. We'll save time for those. Okay, so who is Acxiom? Acxiom is part of a larger advertising holding company named Interpublic Group, and our whole business is on data. We've been in the data industry for the last 60 plus years. We have our own proprietary identity graph, data products, and those are used across a number of clients and industries in order to help businesses find new customers. And so the core of all of the things that we do with technology really relates to getting identity resolution correct. When we talk about identity resolution, there are a couple of things. There's identity resolution that you might be doing with string matching within your own first-party data in your own CRM, for example. Our identity resolution is much more robust than that, and this is really around how we stitch together privacy-compliant data to come with an identity spine that is used across all of our client solutions. So there's really a lot of business benefits here around identity resolution. There'll be copies of these slides afterwards, but really the key is around how do you connect the data that you have about your customer to data that can help you reach additional customers. So you might have a whole bunch of information about people that buy and serve and you market to. This is really around how do you extend the reach of all of the data that you have and connect to other prospects across your markets. And that is what our Real ID and our data technology does. And Databricks is really at the core of how all of this works. And so on the left, you might have your information about your particular customer, and you might have a whole bunch of information that that customer has provided to you or that you've inferred. And on the right is all of the extended set of information that is available about that customer and prospect. And it's super important that this data stays organized, governed, and protected. And so that's what we're going to get to in the next section. Now, when we talk about identity and data management and data governance, we have integrations and partners across the whole advertising and marketing ecosystem. You can see a whole bunch of source providers and data providers on the left, as well as all of the paid media and advertising. So again, just to ground you in what we do for a business and how we connect value to our clients. And it's not just about all the first-party data, but it's really about all the enrichment data. A lot of data. So that's why governance and that's why the use of Databricks is so critical to our foundation, because it helps us to stay compliant, it helps our clients to stay compliant, and also to be able to reach out to people in a privacy-compliant way across the world. So a little bit of stats. Everybody's got to have a vanity slide, and so we have a huge addressable market and a lot of additional attributes that allow our clients to reach their prospects at scale. And where this comes in is into the concept of the solutions that Acxiom delivers for our clients. So we do a range of things around modernizing your marketing, unlocking your data's potential and integrating with prospect data, helping you acquire new customers, maximizing your investments, and moving beyond cookies and other identifiers to help you reach your prospects and your customers in the digital world. Now, technology-wise, all of this is connected and powered by our own internal platform that we call Interact. Interact is a purpose-built advertising platform that allows our agencies and our clients to manage their advertising campaigns from planning all the way through to measurement and execution in between. This is allowing all of our clients to manage their data within our agencies in a collaborative fashion. And so today, this has been something where we've been going through and iterating and innovating, and this has been available to all of our employees around the world, and we're pretty excited that coming soon, Safe Harbor, we'll be able to announce a little bit more about how this is going to be accessible to all of our clients and potentially to all of you later on this year. So before I turn it over to Ankur, just really important, all of the things that we design and all the things that we build and the solutions that we provide adhere to a whole range of different compliance standards. A few of them that are up here on the screen, obviously GDPR, CCPA, and a whole bunch of other means of protecting data are super important as well. So with that, a little bit of Harbor Cruise on Acxiom, and I'll turn it over to Ankur to go in more depth.
Thank you, Stephen. Before I go, are there any marketers in the room? All right, we have quite a few because there is definitely some marketing jargon that we may be using, so just apologies in advance. And if anything doesn't make sense, if any terminology doesn't come across, please raise your hand. Feel free to ask questions. We want to make it very interactive. So enough of Acxiom. Let's talk about data. That's why we are all here for this summit. So I'm going to dive a little bit deeper to kind of give you a view of how Acxiom, all these things that Steve was talking about, resolving the identity, appending third-party data assets to enrich your customer profile. How do we kind of move data along? How do we solve messy data problems? So I'm going to give you a taste, and this will go a little bit technical, so hopefully everybody kind of is with me in these diagrams. So I joined Acxiom about a year ago and started meeting with a lot of clients, just to kind of understand what kind of challenges when we talk about data, when we talk about processing massive volumes of data sets. These are some key themes, which I kind of captured, and I'm sharing this with you. The number one is modernization. How can we build modern solutions which are cloud native, which are serverless, which kind of give you the platform from scalability and elasticity standpoint. A lot of times we meet clients who are on various different platforms. Some are on Amazon, some are on Snowflake, some are on Databricks. How do you kind of stitch this whole complex ecosystem together, which brings data from one platform to another in a seamless fashion, right? And there are many more. I won't drain the slide, but just wanted to give you the taste of the challenges. I'm sure this all resonates with you as well within your organizations as you work with your clients or as you work with your own internal customers or with different departments within your own company. I'm sure a lot of these will resonate. Now, us, Acxiom, as a services company, a lot of times we have to deploy these solutions in clients' own environments as well, right? So aligning our tech stack with their tech stack, that's another a big challenge as well, right? So these are some of the challenges which I wanted to kind of show you. These are like basically the backdrop of how we think in terms of solving big, massive data problems. And this is the solution, this is the framework that we have kind of created. The name is very generic, Modern Data Stack, but essentially it's basically a combination of best-of-breed software tools which are available like Databricks in the market, and then bringing in our products, Real ID, Infobase, Interact, the slides that you saw in Stephen's sections. How do we kind of bring it all together to create a modern marketing data stack for our customers on which we can process, govern, collect, store, all these different type of operations that we do in building a complex data ecosystem. And it's all powered by Real ID. Real ID, think of it as how do I identify my customer across various different channels. So for example, I walk into a store, buy a product, then I go to 1-800, this number and make a call to say, okay, this product is not working as you advertised, and then the problem doesn't get resolved, so I go to social media. So how do you know it's the same customer who is interacting with you across various different channels? And that's the power we bring in this modern data stack to not only identify your customer, but also add additional attributes so that you can market to them with much more intelligence, right? So that's basically the modern data stack. Various different platforms are supported, and when we think about this modern data stack, it's not just about marketing, because marketing is one of the function which an organization, which a business kind of thinks about. If you're building a customer 360, your sales should be able to use it, your finance should be able to use it, your customer service should be able to use it. So it's all about monetizing these data assets across the organization, right? So it gives you a solid foundation. You must be hearing a lot about Gen AI, I'm sure, in various different conferences within your own organization as well. And over the next 3 days, you'll hear a lot about Gen AI as well. So if you have the data right, all these things will start to fall into place, right? Analytics, AI, ML, all these will start to fall in place. And so this becomes the foundation for all your AI, ML initiatives. This becomes the foundation for all your data governance initiatives. This becomes the foundation for all your secure data distribution across your various different departments within the organization as well, right? So these are basically some of the key themes. But here is the architecture diagram. I know it's a very, very busy slide, but this is how we think when we solve complex data problems. Towards the left, you have all these different sources. Stephen talked about first-party, second-party, third-party data sets. So these are your different data assets, which you may be acquiring, different data sources, which may be coming in as a structured data, semi-structured data, unstructured data sets, different frequencies in which you have to acquire them. Some could be batch, some could be API-based, meaning you're connecting directly to those applications and pulling the data. And then some could be streaming, where you have, let's say, mobile applications which are streaming data on a real-time basis. So how do you acquire all those different data sets? And then in the middle is the store and process, which is essentially where the spine of this modern data stack kind of comes in, giving you the ability to spin this up on any platform, and then essentially giving you the capability to store that data, process the data, and things like those. Then comes the consumption. Once you have processed the data, once you have harmonized your data, how do you consume it? And consumptions are various different patterns. You may be building reports. You may be serving this data for downstream applications. You may be doing data science on top of it to build some Gen AI models. And then finally, you activate this data, right? Once you have made sense of this data sets, then how do you activate this data across various different channels? This could be media, this could be email, this could be direct mail. So various different types. For those marketers who are in the room, they may resonate. Marketing activation, data activation, these are basically the common themes. So high level, if you take away anything, this is basically the complex platform, the modern data platform that we have built, which is all powered by Databricks, can be deployed on any cloud platform, whether it's Google, Amazon, Azure. We support all these major platforms. Plus, governance is baked in, plus security is baked in, plus privacy is baked in. So let me walk you through some key themes here, what this architecture actually enables, and maybe a couple of examples of how we have brought this to life for a couple of our clients as well, right? So modern ways of ingesting data, and I'll give you an example. A lot of times, still today, a lot of clients send us data through SFTP. So they send us the files. We process those files, we take those files and then run them through our identity and data asset thing, then we push the result back again through the SFTP channel, right? And this is the number one problem. Clients are like, how can we process this in a much more real-time fashion, right? So modern ways of ingesting data is different type of frequencies, but then giving you the capability to natively share. You may have heard about Delta Share that Databricks talks about, right? Which is zero-copy data sharing mechanism. You don't have to physically, push these files. Basically, through how in an automated fashion you have this stream of data coming in as a trusted party for you to consume, right? So these are the type of mechanisms that we deploy in modern ways of ingesting our data. I talked about various different platforms, right? Google, Azure, GCP, AWS, all these are basically the platforms that we support and Databricks support, and how we can bring up this platform across various different for various different clients. The other theme that we are hearing from our clients is that clients are not comfortable sending their first-party data. First-party data is the data that they capture about their own customers, right? Because there is sensitivity around it. It's PII, and especially after cookie deprecation or things about cookie deprecation, clients are also thinking their own first-party data is the gold mine. Why should they send it to somebody else? That data should reside within their own four walls, right? So how do we basically build this solution? How do we take this framework and deploy in our own clients' environments. I'm sure you must be thinking about the same thing in your environments as well, that how can I deploy this solution cross-platform? So this framework gives us the capability to integrate this solution, to build this framework across various different platforms. The third thing, I'm sure you may have heard about composable architectures a lot. This is a terminology a lot of different platforms are kind of using. And there are a couple of topics, which comes to mind when we talk about composability. One is like that zero copy data sharing, right? How do we minimize the making redundant copies of the data in many different places? For example, CDP platforms, leading platforms like Adobe, Salesforce, ActionIQ. You may have a customer data warehouse, and then you deploy a CDP platform. Traditional ways, you copy the data from your warehouse into the CDP, right? So many different copies of customer data that you're creating. Composable architecture is store it once, use it many times, right? So how these CDP platforms can come and read that data from platforms like Databricks, which may be running on AWS, so that you have your customer warehouse, which gives you the insights about who these customers are, and then how you build those campaigns and activate those campaigns through a CDP platform. So that's the composability aspect, right? So this enables, this platform, this framework enables that. The other thing I want to bring up here is clean room. How many of you have heard about this concept called clean room? I'm sure marketers have, but those of you who haven't, clean room is essentially a way of sharing data in a privacy-safe manner. Meaning, if I'm sharing data about myself, I don't want a third party or a partner to know about the PII, about the customer, right? So how do you anonymize that customer, and then how do you share it in a compliant way? So that's basically what this clean room is. So you will be hearing a lot about clean rooms from Databricks in this summit, but this is essentially how brands, launch co-marketing efforts, with their partners using clean room and sharing data in a privacy-safe manner, right? So this is another concept that we have kept in mind when we talk about processing data. So let me give you an example of a big, large global retailer, where we deployed this whole modern data stack, leveraging Databricks as the underlying platform. And there were two goals, from this use case. Number one was, how do I acquire new customers, right? Acquiring new customers meaning, how do I market to new customers so that I can attract them to buy products, from our brands, right? So this customer acquisition is a very marketing-centric term, and just wanted to kind of give you an idea of when we say acquire new customers, meaning they are trying to acquire new customers who they can market, for their product. And then boosting retention, meaning how do I retain my existing customers? How do I deliver them personalized experiences, or how do I become relevant to them when they are thinking about certain products, certain services? So customer retention, that's another big topic when CMOs talk about. So customer acquisition and customer retention, very classic problems. So this is where, Acxiom kind of deployed this modern data stack powered by Databricks. And I'll show you the architecture. This is a very high-level architecture. Essentially, client was like, we don't want to send duplicate copies. We don't want to be in the business of shipping data through SFTP. So what we enabled here is Delta Share. Client is shipping us the data. Client is sending us the data through Delta Share, which then comes to our platform, which is running on AWS. Client is on Azure. So you see this cross-platform data sharing, which is happening. And then once the data comes to Acxiom, we perform all our hygiene, all our identity resolution services, all our data enrichment services, which I showed you in the previous architecture, which Stephen also kind of talked to you. All that happening in a clean room type of a fashion with governance bolted on top of it through Unity Catalog. And then you saw one slide about Interact. Think of Interact as where marketers actually come and start designing their audiences so that they can actually build campaigns to reach out to them, right? So that's really where the customer acquisition and then customer retention happens, because that's where you design those experiences. That's where you do that lookalike modeling from a data science perspective to see, okay, if these are my 5 customers, the kind of behavior that they show, how do I find 50 others, right? So that is called lookalike modeling, and that all happens through Audience Console within the Interact platform. Once you have done that, then you can activate those campaigns across various different channels. So this is an example where we deployed this for a global large retail at a global scale to bring the power of Databricks to help solve those business problems. The other example I want to show you, think about the same thing, but in a regulated industry, especially like healthcare. There you cannot expose any PII. This all has to be governed in a certain way because the laws, the compliance laws are very, very strict on what you can, what you cannot do. So Acxiom has a data assets, which is called Infobase, which is mainly for unregulated industries where you can use this. But we have special data sets which are available, which we call as Acxiom Health, which is mainly targeted toward healthcare companies. And this is an example where we kind of brought IPG Health and Acxiom Health together to kind of provide similar kind of use cases in a regulated industry, which is actually all HIPAA compliant, right? So here we are not talking about an individual, here we are talking about personas, because everything is de-identified, everything is anonymized. So how do you kind of do the similar kind of exercise in a HIPAA compliant fashion? So this is an example where IPG Health, is all powered by Databricks. It's running on Azure platform. It's helping pharmaceutical companies. It's helping healthcare providers. It's helping insurance companies to design their products and services and market to those personas, in a very safe and secure, compliant manner, right? So this is another case study of how we deployed this modern data stack in various different platforms. So hopefully this resonates with you, that how Acxiom is helping our clients in solving complex data problems, messy data problems, cross-platform, leveraging Databricks. So with that, I'll hand it over to Stephen. Over to you, sir.
Great, thanks. So I think even before surveys have been submitted, the crowd favorite is any sort of marketecture or architecture slide. Any diagram, and the phones come out, and the cameras start going. I'm guilty of doing the same thing. So here's one more for you as well. So when we talk about how we manage classification, how we manage governance. Now, Unity Catalog has amazing capabilities, and even leading edge AI detection around automatic classification. Well, that's great if you're just working within Unity Catalog or you're just managing your data within the Databricks interface. When we talk about building products and building solutions, we have a lot of other pieces of architecture underneath the hood. And so what's really important for us is that we have a central way to define the metadata that our applications can reference in order to enforce our set of custom rules and standards across any of the underlying tech stack. And so when our engineers came up with their solution and their architectural approach here, we wanted to leverage the capabilities inside of Unity Catalog. And so what we did, which I'll show you in a minute here through our UI and Databricks and in our application, is that we came up with a set of policies, and a policy contains a set of classes and roles. Roles are assigned to users, and we're enabling the definition around which users can access different tagged types of data or different classified types of data within Databricks. And so if I'm a user and I'm an analyst, but I'm not allowed to see any PII, let's say I'm working with credit bureau data, and that data is protected until a certain point in your activation use case, we're able to tag that data in a certain way so that no users can actually see the values of the data while they're running models and building audiences with the underlying data until they get to the point in their workflow where that data needs to be revealed to a publishing partner or a print shop. So there are different business cases that we had to build into the classifications of data, the types of data that we wanted to be able to govern and enforce, and all that gets stored within our own metadata repository that then is fed into Unity Catalog via SQL so that Unity Catalog can reference the definitions in that context. We also have other pieces of architecture that reference this as well. So through the concept of iceberg sharing and allowing other platforms to reference this set of metadata, we're able to define this once and have this enforced throughout Databricks or through any other client application that needs to connect to it as well. So classification, governance settings inside of Unity Catalog. I'm going to take a risk here. We're going to try and do a live demo. So let's see if this works. Okay, so what I'm going to show you all is a prototype of something that we built. And this prototype is going to show up, there we go, over on the screen. And let me make this larger. I know we're coming up on 10 minutes. If I have time to use my agent inside of our application, I might do that. Okay, so I'm inside of Acxiom Cloud here. All of this is powered underneath the covers through Databricks. And so I have my workspaces, I have my catalogs, I have all the information below that is being referenced or controlled through our front-end application. And so through this user interface in this application, and I apologize, I'm not looking at you because I'm looking down here, make it work. So I've got a set of connections, I've got a set of data. I can go ahead and manage this set of data. So let's say I'm looking at some credit data, and I want to learn a little bit more about this. And so I've gone through, and this has detected the layout of the data that I've loaded in. I've gone ahead and determined how I want to manage my identity resolution. Maybe I want to clean up that data a little bit with Acxiom's best-in-class data hygiene products. Maybe I want to go through, and this is maybe for a direct mail use case, not in this scenario. And then maybe there's some suppressions that I need to enforce at the time of activation. So in this particular use case, we're not going to use any of those, but those are certainly options that you can configure. So we come back out, and the first way that we manage data quality.
Steven,
yeah.
We just threw in a lot of marketing jargon here.
I
So let me just
did
make sure.
do the jargon.
Let me make sure that everybody is on the same page.
What do you think was the most confusing
Suppression.
jargon?
Can you please help them
Sure.
understand suppression?
That is a great question. Let's go back to suppression. So when you're marketing to people, let's go over here down to this list. Okay, so there are certain types of data or certain lists of data about individuals that must be excluded or should be excluded, depending on the use case. And so what Acxiom maintains is a set of proprietary suppression lists. And those lists are people that might be bankrupt, have tax liens, judgments. There might be opt-out preferences that people
GDPR, CCPA, those are like very common use cases where customer doesn't want their information to be used by their brand. So these are basically what we call as suppressions, the people who need to be filtered out before a campaign is launched.
Exactly. So we have a bucket here like non-marketable suppressions. So these could be people who, have submitted a request through one of those regulatory bodies to not have their information. This could be a list that Acxiom has curated through a whole set of opt-out preferences and requests directly to us or to one of our agencies. And so this allows our clients and our services partners to be compliant when they're actually sending messages out. So if you've ever submitted a do not contact me or an unsubscribe request in an email, that would certainly be honored through the different suppression products that we have at some point. So there are other things in here as well. I talked about cleaning up data. I talked a little bit about hygiene. Was that another jargon term, you think? Probably.
Probably. In the interest of time, maybe just a real quick 30 seconds if you want to explain what hygiene
Sure.
means.
So hygiene. So let's imagine you have a bunch of data that your customers have given you, but maybe the information that they entered into a website or the customer service agent entered into your CRM system, maybe they miskeyed something, or maybe there are some attributes that are missing from your customer's profile. So the hygiene products here are a way to fill in the blanks and also to correct and standardize the formats of the data that you might have.
Very common example I'll give you. People move all the time, right? When you move from one address to another, that's another type of hygiene to make sure that we are using the latest and the greatest address, right? So Postal Department, they have a process called National Change of Address, and that's what basically Acxiom uses to provide the latest and the greatest address of a particular customer or a prospect, and that all basically is part of the hygiene package that we do. Standardizing the data so that before we actually do any operation, it's in a global, standard look and feel, right? So that's basically what the hygiene process is all about. So this is all like how we treat raw data that we acquire from various different sources, whether Acxiom acquires or whether client gives us. Before we do any processing on them, how do we clean it up? It's all happening in front of you here as part of Acxiom Cloud Platform built on Databricks, right? So that's basically the picture that we are trying to show you.
Yeah, and so, like I said earlier, we have some very special things coming with our Interact platform later on this year. What I'm showing you here is really kind of our internal proof of concept and prototype that we built out for some of those use cases that you'll see later on this year. So we talk a little bit about dirty data, and we want to talk about making sure that data doesn't get into your marketing environment and get consumed downstream. And so one of the things we have here with a partner of Databricks of ours, which I can tell you more about after the session, is that we leverage their AI-powered anomaly detection. And so here, when I come down, I'm able to see information around unique values. I'm able to see if there are data profiling statistics that might be interesting. And then up on the top here, just in the interest of time, we're not going to let it process, but I have the ability to define custom rules. So let's say that there are certain values that we know are garbage data, 5551212, me at me.com, or all the different generic values of data that might be showing up as repeat values that you want to exclude from your identity resolution rules or your customer profiles and so on. So you have the ability to set that here so that that data gets removed or handled as the way your business rules should be handled downstream. And so that's really the next piece here. And then as far as the information, I'm just going to do this really quick. So all the roles and permissions and the data classification pieces that I was showing you earlier in that architecture are all controlled here within this UI. And all that gets fed back into the Databricks backend so that when users are accessing data, all of that is done in a privacy compliant way based on the client's requirements. So I think we're about 4 minutes out. I'm going to pull this off of the screen and slide back over to you, the presentation, for a minute, because we have one very, very important slide to show here at the end, right before we do questions. And that is